Welcome everybody to this third webinar in the series that we are doing focusing on leading women in the industry of trading and shipping. And we're just waiting now for the attendees to log in, and then we'll be diving into a very interesting discussion. So, as I said, this is the third in a series of webinars. It is organized by the CTA, the Commodity Trading Association, and it is focusing on leading women within the industry of trading and shipping. We are going to be starting off with an introduction from each of the three panelists, and then we're going to have a discussion where we're looking at various areas of the experience and areas where active steps can be taken to change the situation, to improve the particular roles of women within the industry. We also have a couple of poll questions which we're going to be asking, and then we will bring up these poll questions on the screen with the answers a little bit later on. So in order to kick off straight away now, I'm going to ask the three panelists to introduce themselves. As I said, we have three very interesting ladies from the industry, and so we have Aitana, we have Malak, and we have Yasmina. They will all three do a much better job of introducing themselves than I could possibly do, and so I'm going to pass over first to Aitana. If you can just please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Richard. So thanks for having me, and a pleasure for me to be also with my fellow panelists. So I started my career in shipping and commodities back in 2005 when I joined Cargill Ocean Transportation Division. I have a finance background, so I started in finance and then had different positions until my last one as global head of middle desk and contract management. My career hit a pivot point, so decided to pursue an executive master in digital business, the skills that that very in demand. And now I'm director EMEA for Chinsay, a technology company who is serving on the commodities and freight industries. I'm a proud mama of two. I'm a long life learner, and I'm involved in different activities, being empowering women one of them. So thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Aitana. Pleasure to have you with us today, and very much looking forward to hearing you a little bit later. We also have Malak, who is joining us from Jordan, and so passing over to you, I'll give you a moment to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Richard. I just want to celebrate and emphasize the fascinating and vital role and massive added value that CTA is doing in creating such an event and bringing all of us together. So my name is Malak. I have 13 years experience in bulk commodities, international trading business, marketing and business development. I am the founder and managing director of Golden Wheat for Grain Trading that represent first-class international companies for supplying grains to Jordan. So I work now with Souffle, Agricarnage and Al-Dahr Agriculture. My previous portfolio of bulk commodities in other MENA region, and also with companies like ADM, Amiropa, Ulam, Aston, and UGC. My focus is on food security and sustainable agriculture to meet our region, the MENA region, expanded demand of grain commodities, the scrutiny for food safety and the operational efficiency in the food processing. I'm also co-partner in Golden Can for marketing consulting for oil, energy and renewable energy. So I represent EMEA, Emirates National Oil Company in Jordan. And I also worked with Gunvor and Integral Petroleum doing the same. At the heart of what I'm passionate about now is digitalization of commodities, governance, transparency, and building the sustainable, healthy environment in such a harsh and stressful business.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Malak. Delighted to have you with us. And again, very interested to hear what you're going to be talking about a little bit later, and certainly to have your specific point of view from a lot of the panelists that we've had during this series so far have been based in Switzerland. And so wonderful to have somebody looking at it from a different point of view. And also moving over, Yasmin, if I could ask you to introduce yourself as well.
Sure. First, thank you for having me, and very nice meeting Malak and seeing again Aitana. So I've been working in trading and shipping for over 25 years, especially in ethanol. And a few years ago, I decided to completely switch career and go into coaching in order to help women, especially in trading and shipping, make be heard and being able to really have a much more important presence. This, I have to say that it's not at all the way I was brought up. I was brought up as someone who was told whatever you want to achieve, you will get there. And I saw in this industry that this was not really the case. I was very successful, I have to say. I think I was very lucky, but I was always, of course, working a lot. As all the women who are on this panel, they will know that we have all to show more than others in order to make our point and be recognized. So this is why I've also had a team in Geneva of women only. And I was lucky enough to be the president for Vista for 6 years, where we grew the membership from 15 to more than 100, and really, and I'm so happy to see now Mariana continuing the great job on it. And yes, today I'm also now in the name of ZCA, because I just got elected as their general secretary. So I have too much energy, time, and heart into the trading and shipping to just let go. So I had to keep some occupation in that area. So really looking forward to our conversation today.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Yasmina, and delighted to have you with us as well. Certainly three incredibly interesting people, and I'm sure that our audience is fascinated to hear what you have to say. You mentioned that you were the president of WISTA, and so for those who are not aware, that's the Women's International Shipping and Trading Association, and a very, very active organization, certainly in Switzerland and on the international scale. So again, welcome to everyone who's joined us today. This is the third of these webinars where we're really going to be focused on concrete steps that can be taken for women to improve, to take their career forward. We had the first webinar where we were looking at some of the people's personal experience, what they had experienced during their careers. The second, we were looking much more at where we stood with regulations, with figures, some of the facts in the industry at the moment. And so this, we're really looking into the concrete parts. In fact, this is leading towards, hopefully at the end of the year, there will be a in-person event where we will all be able to get together and actually spend some time together instead of having to speak online. So in terms of the discussion today, there are a number of different areas that we want to dig into. Before we do that, we are going to have two poll questions which we'd like to put out to our audience just to get a feeling of the answer. And so the first poll question, it's a question. It should come up on your screen right now. Basically, it's, I made a career mistake when?
The second question.
Sorry, second question. We're going to second question. What actions have you taken that helped you manage your career? So first of all, self-awareness assessment, learned new skills, connected to decision makers, active networking, and sought mentoring outside my organization. So please put your choice there, and then we will look at the results a little bit later as we get on with the discussion. So the first area that I want to discuss about, it's a very important area, certainly whenever we're looking at a career in general, it's the ownership of one's own career and the importance of this. And so this is something that I wanted to ask Aitana at first, but I also want to have the views of Yasmina and Malak. But can you talk about how ownership of one's career can be achieved? And also, is this being encouraged by companies, or is this much more on an individual basis?
Thank you, Rachel. Very good question. So first, I will start by trying to understand a little bit of the context today. Okay, so we understand that an average person, an average changes career between 5 to 7 times during the work life, and also if we consider that professional development is no longer linear, and then if we add to that the uncertainty that we are all living today. So we definitely need to consider that owning a career is something very important. So you ask about, from a woman's perspective, what can we do? And also, and the companies, how are encouraging this? So I will talk about my personal experience. So for me, the steps that I can take is about defining your own success. Okay, so understanding what you want, what you like, what you don't like, what are your superpowers, what you dislike very much that you don't want to continue doing. So reflecting a little bit about what are your interests, what do you want. That will help you define your own success, what success a success career means to you. Because depending on each of us, we will have something that means different. So when we understand that, at least for me, it has given me the strength, okay, the self-confidence, the power to pursue what I want. It makes me unstoppable, so I can do everything. And as a woman, I think it's important that we understand this. Then there is the option on the companies that most of the companies, or good companies, or at least from my experience, there are development programs within companies. So it's about, in those development programs, what you're going to have is these discussions with your manager. Okay, what are your strengths? What are your opportunities for improvement? And what is your next move? So it's very often, and we remind in companies that it's a 70-30% is responsibility for the employee. So as an employee, you are 70% responsible to your career, and 30% is your manager who is going to be guiding you. And we often don't take this serious. So I will say that it's important for all of us to take ownership of that discussions. Okay, so if we understand what we want, and if we take serious those discussions, we are able to voice what we want, tell to our manager, have this discussion. And then obviously it's about taking all the tactics or the strategies to make it happen. So on your success, that's what I would say. No, that what I'm saying is on your success.
Yes. Well, I think it's very clear what you're saying, and it's interesting you're saying define what success means for you. And so it's not a question of following a predefined blueprint. It's deciding what is actually important for you and what success would mean for you as an individual. It's interesting you say that, because we often go into the commodity trading career, maybe less so now, but certainly when I came into the world of commodity trading, I think it's the same for a lot of people of a similar generation, we kind of fell into our jobs, and I imagine that's as true for women as it is for men. And then as you go from job to job, you kind of just go from opportunity to opportunity without really planning it out. You talked about the development programs within a trading company or within a company. It must be quite difficult to find out much about those before joining the company. Do you have any thoughts on that? How you would be able to actually decide whether a company is well suited for you in advance?
Well, I don't think I'm a very good example, because in my early careers, when I joined it like 17 years ago, it was like I was going with the flow. So it's only with a little bit of understanding how the politics, how the company works. Trying to understand what are the different roles that you have within a company, that you start realizing what you like and what you don't like. I guess for me, it was scouting all those different jobs, saying, okay, is this the industry that I want to live? What is intake in this industry, and what is the company, the culture? Do I like the culture of the company? Am I having the opportunities to move forward on my career? I personally had the privilege to work for Cargill during 13 years. So for me, I all my needs were fulfilled at the time. I guess when you are growing and understanding better what you need and arriving to a maturity on your career, that you understand a little bit, okay, what I have not done on the past, I could learn. And that is for me, I mean, being in this webinar is for me just to pass on this. I mean, don't wait until you have that maturity. Start exploring very early and question everything to make sure that you're taking your right decisions with regards to your career. And if your ambition, and that's why we're here, is to make sure that we are moving to more leadership roles, okay, plan it. We plan everything on our lives. We plan where we live. We plan we're having a family. You have to plan also your career.
I think it sounds like excellent advice to me. Just coming over to Yasmina, staying within, I guess, the more of a Swiss experience. What would your thoughts be on owning your career and the options?
Well, first of all, I would say exactly like Aitana, and this is exactly one of my programs, is to make sure that you know what you want without having your objective, your goals, and your destination in mind. I mean, then it's just flowing like a paper boat on a river, right? I mean, there is no direction. Your life is never going to be exactly, you are not going to be able to reach them, okay? When there are some opportunities arising, women have to speak up. Women have to stand up. Women have to take the stand. They have to express themselves. Because usually what is happening, especially in this kind of companies, is that, well, this one, he's my friend, and I went to that university with them, or we were a part of the same networking group or whatever. So I trust him because we have something in common, so I'm going to give him the first chance. And then as a woman, usually we don't have this chance. So we have to create it. So it's our role to make sure that people know about us, that people can recognize our value, and that they really are giving us the opportunities. It's finding the opportunity. It's making sure that it's given to you.
Excellent. I mean, it makes an awful lot of sense. I think that it's not always something that's very easy to find on one's own in life, and so I imagine the people that you work with must be very, very fortunate to have you helping them along that path. And otherwise, I mean, I guess Malak, you've had quite a different experience in terms of the geographical region, the cultures. What would be your thoughts on that?
Interesting. So, of course, I would definitely agree with Aitana and Yasmina, because it's like, you know, it's setting the path and all what they've said. Of course, I agree with them. But in my own story, I would say that starting having my own company at an early age. So I wasn't thinking of a mission. I wasn't thinking what's about my career. But I would say, and this is an advice, I mean, that people, they would just like at the beginning of their starting their own career and, you know, setting out their objectives and missions in life. The first thing is like not the training, but also the internship or apprenticeship programs that would be made this female young leaders to start navigating what opportunities for them. So at an early age, I would, and this is what happened to me, I would just risk taker, and I had, and I still have, of course, the entrepreneurship mindset to accept things and be agile. So during my career or during starting the business, I was willing to take risks. But at the same time, I was eager to learn and actively listen. So it's just a mix of winning formula. Now, after this years of experience, when I go back and I say, oh, that's the reason why I'm here now, because I had the right people next to me, you know, and I was effectively conscious of how time is very important and I need to invest in myself. Now, when I go back, I see, oh, yes, now I have a mission. When I was younger, when I started like having the first company, I just thought that it just sounds like exciting. And then I invested in myself. I built up the knowledge. So I think it's also having a female role models like Yasmina and Aitana is very important, because if I see, for example, Yasmina or Aitana and other women in the same industry, I will think, if they are successful and they've reached that far, I can definitely be like them. So it's about bringing those role models to become more visible and becoming more real and accessible. So I think this is the secret to that.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's fascinating what you're saying. And in fact, on some of the previous webinars, we were also talking quite a lot on the importance of having female role models, people that we can see in positions of leadership who can be looked up to. I think that's very, very important. Moving on, I mean, to some of the other areas of discussion, and quite linked. We were talking in our initial conversation about the importance of a personal brand. And this is something that, Malak, I'd like to talk to you about, some of the steps that can be taken to actually achieve a personal brand.
I love that. I mean, this is at the heart of what I truly believe in, and this is set my values. So my rituals that have been formed and developed, let's say accumulated over years, Richard, is first by building your knowledge and of what you need to know or what you think that you know. And the second one, again, is just investing in yourself, building your supernatural capacity and navigating your strengths and weaknesses, and having this set of skills to, conquer. And the third thing, I would say, stating exactly, as Yasmina said, is like stating exactly what you need from the meetings you are going to, how you are going to closing deals. And the winning formula was for me, for example, is the credibility and integrity. And it's so much appreciated over years. And the last thing I would say is humility and having this entrepreneurship mindset and behavior. And you will be willing to listen actively and learn and be solution oriented, and having the right people next to you, like an active network that you mentioned in the whole, having this, I always call them the amazing three circles, like the circles of friends, family, circle of trust and confidence, and circle of your knowledge. Who is the people that will make you where you want to be in 5 years? Just look around you and just see, this is the circle of people I want to be around with, like giving me positive energy and the encouragement and the inspiration, and will help me to reach where I want. And also, again, it's like having your own values. It's very important. You will shine having your own values, and it is your personal brand. And it is not something that it's like you want to sell. It just, people will feel it because it comes from your heart, and it will, it will be in synchronization with your mental strength, with the knowledge you have, with the value you are bringing to the table. It's just fascinating.
I mean, it is fascinating, as you say, and it's something with which you're obviously very, you've got an awful lot of experience. Do you spend time helping women with building their personal brand, and basically bringing a lot of the points you just brought there to actually active steps with them? Yes,
I hope I am doing enough. But I'm doing, as I was a mentee before, now I'm a mentor for Arab women, and they are just amazing and they want to learn. And I think I'm actively in many forums internationally and regionally. So I'm just trying to be honest in the advices and giving them and sharing my personal stories and just be there for them. But it's mainly a mentorship. A mentorship program that I'm giving now.
Excellent. Well, it's certainly very, very interesting. I mean, just to broaden this out a little bit, Aitana, moving over to you, is this concept of personal brand something that you focus on, you think actively about?
I mean, I think we have always focused probably on personal brand. Probably we never name it that way. But now it's becoming more and more important. And if you think about the slow pace that we are getting into leadership positions, it becomes more and more important, and it makes more and more sense. Okay, so from my point of view, when I think about personal brand, there is what we have said, okay, reflect about yourself, okay, who you are, just to understand what is the authentic you, the one that you can very naturally transmit. What Malak has said, I mean, is about this credibility, this integrity, everything to do with your humility. Okay, this is the given one, okay? We need to focus on that one. And then when I think also about personal brand, I mean, we need to understand also what is our competitive edge, okay, as a woman, okay? For example, it's recognized that we score higher on emotional intelligence. Okay, so let's use it. Okay, if we, Yasmina is saying no, okay, no.
I'm sorry, but I just made a study on that, so.
Oh no. Well, I'm fascinated about emotional intelligence, and probably now in the times that we are living, okay, it makes sense to leverage it. And then the other one is, when I think about personal brand, is about online. Okay, the Gartner, I mean, it's a recent Gartner study on company leaders, that they are talking about, okay, are we going to come back fully to the presential, I mean, to the office, or are we going to go, are we going to work remotely, partially, or full time? So there is a significant, I mean, the result is that 87% of the companies, I think 80% of the companies, they will allow this flexibility to work from home. And then 40% of the companies, they will go fully remote work or working from home. So we cannot avoid the online version of our brand. So I think it's super important that we put some focus. Also, when I think about brand, to me, it's important that we understand what is the message that we want to convey in our social networks, on who are our target audience, okay, that we want to make ourselves more visible. So social networks, online brand is unavoidable today. So.
Well, it's interesting to say that, because it's something that's quite often overlooked, but certainly our online presence is incredibly important these days, and we have so much more contact with people through our online presence than we do on just day-to-day interactions, and so it's something we need to constantly think about in order to promote the areas that we want to promote, but also reduce or limit the areas that we don't want to be seen for. Yasmina, I'd like to have your comments on the personal brand, because I imagine it's something that you work on quite a lot in your coaching.
Yes, so I completely agree with Malak and Aitana, apart from this emotional intelligence.
Part of this emotional intelligence.
We can discuss that offline. No, number one is everyone has to know exactly what he or she wants. That's the number one. The number two is to be authentic. And yes, absolutely, as Malak said, you start with your values. Without knowing your own values, I mean, you go nowhere. There is a work to do on that, because we don't always know what our values are exactly. We think we know, but we don't always know, and then they can also change. And some may be more important at one stage of our life than others. Then I believe that one should also find her uniqueness. Like everybody has something which is completely unique. Aitana's experience, Malak's experience are completely different than mine. And whatever we have been going through, this is what is going to make us unique. And these are the stories that we are going to be able to share with the others. And this is what is going to make our brand, because it's us. And of course, we don't have to make up stories. We have to tell the stories that we live the way they were. And we just still stay with this authenticity. Coming to the social media, I think that it's the online presence is one thing, and the social media is something else. And we have to be very careful. Also now how people are presenting themselves, and it's also something that we have to be very careful about, what we are sharing with others, and make sure, because so many people have no real contact with others nowadays. They spend so much time on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, and they, what they see, they believe is true, and we know that it's not the fact. So we have now a huge percentage of people who are getting mentally ill of this home working situation, and this can only add to it. So whenever people are sharing things with the others, I'm really asking them to share what is true, and not a fantasy, or not something which is not actually the fact. Another thing, the last one thing, is that you can add a personal value to your customer one way or another. And you can have, you can send a card, because so few people now are using paper cards. Everybody's using things on, I mean, just on the internet, sending a thank you email. Take the time, take a piece of paper and write thank you. It's going to make such a difference in people's lives. I mean, there are simple things that you can do, which is really going to make you be so different from the others, and which is going to bring, because what you want to bring with your brand is for people to enjoy seeing you, listening to you, and exchanging with you. So you have to create that bond.
Everything you say makes perfect sense, and I think that everyone would be very happy if they managed to follow all these things. But I think that it would certainly make for a very happy life if people did. We're going to be moving on the discussion actually towards subject that I discussed with you in depth, Yasmina, unconscious bias. But before we do that, we had the poll question that we put up at the beginning, and so I believe we're going to have the results from that poll question are going to come up on the screen now, so we'll see. And so it seems that by far it was learned new skills, and then connected was 50%, and then connected decision makers, active networking 35%, and self-awareness assessment 15%. So this is obviously something that is very, very, very important, and we see the learn new skills being the highest point there. So in order just to move on, I mean, I'd love to have an in-depth discussion on that, but unfortunately we're going to be getting close for time soon. We had the other question, the other poll question, that should also be coming up on your screen now. And so the question is here: I made a career mistake when? And there are three choices, or there's all of the above. So first choice is, I didn't take a big enough risk with a job or project. Second is, I let my limiting beliefs impact my choice or behavior. Third, I didn't ask what I wanted, but took what was available, offered. Or as I said, all of the above. So please put your answer for that, and then we'll bring up those answers a little bit later. But in the meantime, I'd like to move on and discuss, Yasmina, you were talking about unconscious bias, and by the very nature of the term, it is unconscious. But I'd like you just to explain a little bit about how this can be brought into the open, discussed, and reduced.
Yeah, I think that everybody has to understand that we all have unconscious bias. We know it, we don't know it, it all depends. There is, do I have the time to tell the little story?
Please do.
Yes, okay, thank you. So there is, I don't know, some of you may know the story, so don't answer immediately. If not, you can answer in the chat. So there is a car accident, and it's the father and his son who are in this accident, and the father is unfortunately dead. And when the son is rushed to the operation room, the doctor who sees the boy says, I'm sorry, I cannot operate on this boy. He's my son. How come?
So if you do know the answer to that, then if you already heard it before, then please hold off. But otherwise, if you think you know the answer and haven't heard it before, please put it up in the chat. And so how is the doctor, how is the accident victim the son of the doctor? Otherwise, while that comes in, Yasmina, passing it back to you.
Okay, so I think that I don't see any answer. Do you see someone answering?
Not for the moment.
I don't see. No, but I mean, they should have known or not. So nobody knows, that's fine. Don't worry. It's more than 50% who don't know the answer. The answer is that the surgeon is the mother. So that's how our unconscious bias works. Like and especially women in leadership, we believe that we have no bias because we have been in that situation so many times, and there it is. So we have to really understand that this is how everything starts. And then it's also with the upbringing. And then you have the girls, they are always taught to be nice and polite and to be there of service for the others. And the boys, they are there to win and to be the best and be the champion and be the number one. So this is also something which is building up. What happens is that, of course, men come up in the workplace with much more confidence, self-confidence. And women are there with what we call the Tiara Syndrome. And this is where you are there, and because you've been a good girl and you've studied so well during all your college years, and you were always appraised because, yes, you had the high score, so everybody could see it, so everybody said, congratulations. You get to the workplace, nobody is going to congratulate you. You need to speak up. You need to make your voice heard. You need to show the people what you're capable of. And this is not something which is intrinsically feminine. And this is where we also have to make a difference. So I can go much more in depth, but I think that the time is turning, and I want to know if my colleagues have something to add to that.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's fascinating hearing you talk about that, and it's a subject that's I mean, obviously by it being unconscious, we overlook it, but it's certainly the story that you told at the beginning. I mean, I remember I've heard it before, and so when you hear it for the second time, you're like, well, obviously. When you hear it for the first time, you just feel like an idiot for not immediately knowing the answer, and it's just very interesting. It's almost kind of sitting here saying, well, how was it confusing? How did I not know in the first place? So still on the subject of unconscious bias, but also just to say to the people, to the audience, that if you do have questions for the panelists, please, you can put them on the chat, and then we will look into those in a couple of minutes. But before we do that, moving over to you, Aitana, unconscious bias, is it something that you have encountered? Is it something you've actively tried to counter in the past?
No, because it's unconscious. No. Yes, I mean, we do. Yes, we do have this unconscious bias, and from my side, very often I focus a lot that from the education of my kids, for example. Okay, that to me, I test a lot to them just to make sure that how my education has affected probably the way I behave today. I'm not repeating probably those mistakes with my kids. I mean, knowing that I have been very lucky. Not my father probably no, because we were all girls. Okay, so he had to learn also about managing a lot of women at home. I have a brother, but still I have a few sisters, my sisters. So what I do very often is constantly check how I behave in myself with my kids. Okay, so asking them about what is the different professions that women have versus men. Okay, so asking them, tell me, is a doctor, can you be a doctor or can you not be a doctor? Or how do you run? How fast you are? So from my side, I'm just being alert when there is this unconscious bias that we are associating boys to something or girls to something, and the same thing with the professional life, that we are associating a role for a woman and a role for a man. Just try to understand the why and just signal that, this is not correct, doesn't look why. I mean, try to rationalize why are we thinking this way, and then making sure that you have this discussion with the person. So we change. I mean, that is my little contribution, I would say.
I mean, it makes perfect sense, and I see exactly what you're saying. I mean, I have 2 children, a boy and a girl, and certainly try and treat them exactly the same. But you see this in the shops. I mean, you go into the shops and you buy clothes for the kids, and you see all the boys' clothes are covered in footballs, and the girls' clothes are covered in princesses. And it's very, very difficult to move away from and to avoid, and certainly in terms of toys. Otherwise, Malak, I mean, obviously you have slightly different experiences living in Jordan. I wonder whether this is something, unconscious bias is something you've experienced, or I'd like to hear about it.
Wow, you opened the door of hell. Coming from the region, not specifically to Jordan, but coming from a region, they assume that we were like traditional conservative. But, I want first to celebrate that already such a concept, it's there. So when you say unconscious bias, the celebration of the existence of such a concept, it means that there is something wrong. And it will, alarm you that you need to be conscious about it, which is truly amazing. So this is the beginning. The second is what I do also with my kids is, and I'm sure, I'm so hopeful, and I'm very optimistic that this would change, because now we are starting this wave. We cannot accept it anymore. So the market or even, the stationery, you go with the books and notebooks, everything's like divided by blue and pink. But we will lead the market, because we are not buying this anymore. I'm not entering the market. Like, I will take the same color for my daughter and son. I told her pink. Your father wears pink. So I think this is the upbringing. But if we want to create the momentum, we need to be more vocal about it. And coming from the Middle East, yes, it's truly one of the things that we're still suffering. But I choose to see, not to be in denial, but I choose to see the successful stories. I choose to see for example, and I want also to celebrate that, is how strong women, for example, like one of my friends, she's Egyptian, she's the Minister of Planning and International Cooperation, empowering other women, opening the door for me if I need something in Egypt. This is the success stories. We need to be, more visible, and we have to talk. My responsibility is to talk more about how other women inspiring and helping and empowering other women. And we have to create this momentum, because if we just stuck with what we have been taught, it's like engraved in our DNA, we'll always be suffering and will not progress. No way we will progress with the same mentality. And recognizing that we have this concept is good, because before 10 years, I don't think it was, that's news. But now, just to say that it exists, you immediately go in the motion of, oh yeah, there's something's wrong. I need to check myself. And especially with this example, Yasmina is saying, I failed, by the way, Yasmina. It was so disappointing for me. I failed. I thought, like, how come? And then, as you said, it's like, oh my God, Malak. And then I recognize that I need to, to go back and think what is inside, why, and start asking why I'm thinking this way. And I also discussed the same with my kids. So it was an open, interesting discussion.
Excellent. Thank you very much. These are subjects that I would love to talk about for a lot longer. Unfortunately, we are coming towards the end. We do have in fact, a comment and a question on the chat. And so, first of all, I'll read out the comment, which I fully agree with. And so this the comment, thank you for sharing all this important information and advising amazing leading women. You are an inspiration. I am sure that most of the women here, as me, don't feel comfortable sharing here and commenting. We need to step out of our comfort zone. I obviously understandable, but at the same time, I think that if the people listening today were keen on reaching out to the individuals on the panel, then I'm sure that would be most welcome. And so please, if you need the CTA to help with putting in contact, otherwise we have LinkedIn, and that can be done quite easily. As far as the question is concerned, did you feel other women were supporting of you in your career? Do you think women supporting women is a key factor for success? I'm going to start off with Aitana, but a very short answer because we're getting towards the end, but put the question to you first.
I don't think we are doing enough, okay? I don't think that probably, the power of sisterhood, we haven't explored that one, okay? So we ought to help. I mean, women ought to help each other. And that is a concept that is very, I mean, it's a foundation for men, okay? They go to the boys club or, I mean, and the football match. And we have not been exposed probably to that environments from our childhood. So yes, I think it's important. We need to exploit it. I mean, there is nothing wrong about asking a woman for help and having this connection. And we have different needs. So a woman is going to understand your needs and it's not going to question it. So definitely, I mean, please, you can contact me. I mean, you can learn by contacting me, by building this connection with me, and then you can go and do it with the other women. But yes, we definitely need to support this sisterhood. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Aitana. Moving on to Malak, same question for you. And so there are two sides of the question. Did you feel other women were supporting of you in your career? And do you think women supporting women is a key factor for success?
Definitely. I think like we have to leverage more on that. I always call it's like we have to increase the flow of the introduction emails and the, strengthening our active network with the, excelling females out there, and you have to reach out to them and you have to be vocal and clear of what you want. And to be, excelling in a male dominant world, it doesn't count only on you, but also needs the other great, confident, mission-oriented female. And you have, if you spot one, don't leave her. And it's also the important thing of, again, it just increase the flow of the introduction emails. And if you know something, just this building this active, amazing, strong network is very important, but we need to do more and leverage and harness this network.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much. And Yasmina, same question being passed over to you.
Yes, I can only agree with what both my colleagues have said, because really Aitana and Malak, they really went over it. But I just want to take 1 second to answer a question that came in just after regarding the networking. And I think that we cannot have fully our career if we are not networking with both men and women, that's for sure. Most of the companies are still headed by men. And I haven't seen a company where the first two levels have been held by women only. Therefore, yes, definitely you need, very important, to have the support of men. And this is what we have to work on, to have more men like Richard to support us women in being in leadership and help us go forward. Thank you very much, Richard.
Well, thank you,
Yasmina. I just want to add that, Yasmina, thank you took something very important, and it's true. I mean, the decision makers today in companies are very much male dominated. Okay, it's male. So you need to understand how, yes, they support yourself within other women, and then how can you network with those men? Okay, probably drinks is not your thing. It's fine. Just go and have a coffee. Just go and have a drink. A lunch. And a drink. I'll go for the drink also. But then it's super important that also men are part of this networking and this support for you. So
and one last thing that I to close the discussion is just about the mentorship, because we talked about that and how important it is for women to have sponsors and coaches within their company and mentors. And for women to have a man also in that company could help. And therefore you have to maybe work, I don't know, through friends that you have, through colleagues that understand you. And because usually for men, it's quite, they don't always feel so comfortable being in a room with a woman, and they are there asking them. And usually it's outside working hours. So start with the breakfast. So implement a breakfast meeting, and then everybody is going to feel much more relaxed about it, because there is always this connotation that they don't feel so well. So
Excellent. Unfortunately, that does kind of bring us to the end of the discussion. It's something that we could carry on discussing for a long time to come, certainly with three such wonderful panelists. We did ask a poll question about 15 minutes ago. And so before we do close the session, we're going to have the results of those come up on the screen. And so I didn't ask what I wanted, but took what was available offered. And this is so much in line with the various aspects that are being discussed here today, the importance of deciding what you want, actually knowing what is important for you and building on it. I mean, it's a subject, as far as I'm concerned, that needs to be discussed more and more. We have a tremendous amount of unconscious bias. And I think that, an awful lot of the men, I would say, in similar position to me are much more it's much more the unconscious bias situation. And so it's more of a discussion that needs to be had. It's getting it out in the open and actually seeing where this is an issue. I had a fantastic lunch yesterday with somebody, and she's currently looking for work, and she was concerned that she didn't want to contact people because she didn't want to be seen to be bothering them. And I said, well, what's the worst that can happen? If you call them and they agree to go for lunch with you, or then great. If you call them and they say no, and you don't call them, then you have the same result. So basically, there's only one upside. But this is something that we do see quite often. But I think it's fascinating. As I said, a discussion I'd love to carry on for a lot longer. We will be having more of these webinars carrying on after the summer break. But on that note, I would like to say an enormous thank you to the three panelists. Very, very interesting discussions. Aitana, thank you very, very much. Malak, thank you very much joining us from Jordan. And Yasmina, thank you very much for your participation.
My pleasure.
Thank you to all our attendees for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you then.